So it looks like at this point the Democratic establishment, the establishment offenders, both in the media and outside of it, the liberal pundit class is doing everything that they can to prop up Joe Biden right now, even though there's, some really serious evidence of Joe Biden's mental and cognitive decline. Because if you just go back and look at some of the interviews he was giving, even in 2016 about Clinton and Bernie, his mental faculties appeared to be substantially more there just 4 years ago, and we have him now. He's not able to just get through one campaign speech or event, no matter how short it is, without having any type of really serious verbal gaffe happen. And so he had a campaign event today when it was only a 7-minute appearance, and he still wasn't able to get through that without just totally making no sense. So I'll play it and we'll listen. Hold on one sec.
Because we cannot get re-elected. We cannot win this re-election. Excuse me, we can only re-elect Donald Trump.
So he said, we cannot win this re-election, obviously, because you didn't get elected to the office of the presidency. That is Donald Trump.
Because we cannot get re-elected. We cannot win this re-election. Excuse me, we can only re-elect Donald Trump.
And then he says we can only re-elect Donald Trump. Obviously, we don't want to re-elect Donald Trump, Joe Biden. We want to defeat him, and it's just, it's honestly not trying to poke fun at Joe Biden's diminishing cognitive and mental abilities at this point. I just honestly feel really bad for him that he's just kind of getting exposed in this way on a very national and public stage. But the DNC, the liberal establishment, the professional middle class people aren't willing to open their eyes to this fact, or they just would rather have 4 more years of Donald Trump than a Bernie Sanders presidency, because you can see that poll after poll, especially in these crucially important swing states like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, like Wisconsin, that Bernie Sanders is the only candidate to beat Donald Trump. He's the only one to, beat him in the Electoral College as well, and he does really well in these swing states with independent and moderate voters. And it's just really disappointing to see that, a lot of these people within the Democratic establishment, within the DNC, within these other kind of neoliberal centrist propagandizing and supporting organizations, and people on the periphery would rather have 4 more years of Donald Trump, obviously hugely xenophobic, racist, sexist, classist, all of these horrible things, floating more neoliberal policies as well, leading to more miseration for the working class people of the U.S. and abroad. They would rather have that happen than to have Bernie Sanders in the White House, a candidate who his whole mission, his campaign slogan says it all, not me, us. His campaign's totally dedicated, and his presidency would be completely dedicated to making sure that the U.S. society, the U.S. government works for the average, everyday working class person, and not the billionaire owner class, as Bernie Sanders, points out by passing and getting things done like Medicare for all, so we don't have 70,000+ people dying each year due to lack of health care. We won't have 500,000 people going bankrupt each year. We'll be able to pass a Green New Deal, so we'll actually have an inhabitable planet to live on for our generation and future generations. Obviously, hugely important, ending the wars, a living wage, legalizing marijuana, canceling student loan debt, wealth tax, a higher tax on the wealthy, a progressive tax rate. All of these things that Bernie Sanders stands and supports for would disproportionately benefit the working people of the United States, and his vision comes through a lens of racial and economic justice. But again, the wealthy liberal elite would rather have 4 more years of Trump because he's still good for business, and Bernie Sanders is a existential threat to a lot of those pundit hack class is an existential threat to their class interests. So that's why they're okay with propping up sleepy Joe Biden, as Donald Trump calls him. And it's just, that's why the Biden campaign is running such a campaign of limited exposure for Joe Biden, because they realize the more he gets out there, the more inevitably he's going to stick his foot in his mouth at least one time during these speeches. That's why there's been, Rachel Maddow, I believe, was it maybe Anderson Cooper, somebody on CNN was like, where's Joe Biden at? I'd really like to interview him. Rachel Maddow had Bernie on earlier in the week. She put out this call, Joe Biden, come on, I haven't talked with you for a long time. What's going on? And then his campaign just has him out there in little spurts. Again, he made a 7-minute speech at his rally today. Bernie Sanders, I believe, had 3 events where he was speaking for around an hour at least. There's no cognitive or mental decline going on with Bernie Sanders. He's campaigning as strong as ever. He makes complete and utter sense, and we don't have any examples of him just fumbling for words and just totally, misspeaking, as we had with Joe Biden here, saying that he's going to get, reelected to the presidency. And earlier in the week, Super Tuesday, he confused his wife and his sister. They were standing on different sides of him, while he was at the podium. He got that confused. He was saying that he was running for Senate. If you don't like him, vote for the other Biden. And it just, you go back even further, you see more of that. And unfortunately, the more he gets out there, the more we're going to see these things. Again, it's a huge liability to put somebody like Joe Biden against Donald Trump. I just saw Trump actually tweeted about Biden's, or Joe Biden, I should say, saying that he's going to get reelected, how Trump would be, and Trump, so he's already playing on the sleepy Joe Biden, the senile Joe Biden angle of this. And again, it's, we shouldn't be poking fun at Joe Biden's diminishing cognitive abilities, but again, Trump, this isn't fucking checkers, this is really serious. Trump's not gonna hold back anything. He's gonna say or do anything that he thinks will help get him elected, and attacking Joe Biden's diminishing cognitive abilities is something that Trump's going to keep hammering at, not to mention all of Joe Biden's literally 40 years of horrible policy and voting record with things like the Iraq War, NAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China, the bankruptcy bill, wanting to cut Social Security multiple times, and the list goes on. Joe Biden is a hugely problematic and troubled candidate on so many levels. And again, the liberal establishment is propping him up, and if he ends up becoming the nominee, mark my words, Donald Trump would beat him, and I don't even think it would be close. Peace, much love. Share your thoughts down here.